welcome back to the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Paulina Westcott, your host. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. My guest today is Krisha Crosley. She is with Serenity Life Doula. She is a creator, and also she runs Train for Birth workshop, where she helps moms get ready to birth their babies with the least amount of problems. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is getting yourself prepared, getting yourself ready, why you should even bother. So, Krisha, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and why.
Well, thank you so much for having me, first of all. This is exciting. I like to help people. I think more like humanitarian, and, I enjoy the family dynamic. That's what I love helping the most with. Actually, me and my husband both love helping other families, flourish and prosper in that family dynamic. So several years ago, I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. I've been an athlete all my life, and then when I was a mom, I was actually stayed at home and ran the kids all over the place doing the thing. But we would occasionally have people come over and drop your kids off. Hey, we're going to watch them for a while. Why don't you go have husband and wife time or go on a date or whatever? So that's what we did. I was born and reared in Austin, Texas. That's where I met my husband. And then we moved up to the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. And we just started doing the same thing with people we knew. And this husband looked at me and goes, "You need to be a doula." And I'm like, "A what? What is a doula? I don't even know what that means." So I bought my first book, read it, and was like, "Oh, I'm already doing that." I was already helping my friends have babies and helping them with breastfeeding and all the things. So I was like, okay, in 5 years, I'll be fired as a stay-at-home mom because my kids will turn 18 and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. So I'll start helping other parents with their babies. So that's actually how my journey becoming a doula happened 13 years ago. And then I started noticing that there was a pattern to labor. So at the beginning, I took like hospital births and birth center births and home births. And I really liked the out of hospital births better at home. And birth center was just so much more calmer and peaceful. So I started doing those more and would watch women literally labor. And I was like, huh. And then I had this one birth, the one birth that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
She labored for 80 hours. And if you don't know how long 80 hours is, it's 4 days. And this baby was not coming out of her. And I was double certified as a doula, so meaning I'd taken 2 doula organization courses, and this baby wasn't coming out. The midwife used all her skills. We literally called other birth pros and goes, "Hey, this is what we did. Did we miss anything?" Nothing. Mom was healthy, baby was healthy. She didn't want to transfer, so we continued for 4 days. And then I was like, okay, we're missing something. Like, we're just missing something. So I literally asked her husband for a rolling pin out of her kitchen. And he went and got me a rolling pin, and I literally took the rolling pin and I rolled out the muscles of her body. Her butt muscles, all the way around her thigh muscles, and then her noises started changing, and lo and behold, a baby came out of her body. And I was like, we didn't learn this in doula training. But I've played Division I collegiate volleyball, and I spent a lot of time in the training room getting my muscles worked on and rolling out my muscles and all the things, ice baths, heat, all the things. Tried out for the Olympics, so I'm an elite athlete, so I understand how to take care of the body and how the muscles work of the body. And I took that knowledge and applied it to this situation, and a baby came out. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So then I started watching women labor naturally. What were they doing? Squatting, lunging, moving, what were they doing with their bodies? And noticed a pattern. And I was like, I can train people for this. So I literally wrote up a program, and I started telling my private birthing athletes, hey, I need you to practice this the last month of pregnancy. And then they started doing it. And then babies literally started flying out of vaginas. Like, so fast. I worked with first-time moms. That's my main clientele. And they were having 8-hour births. Start to finish, 8 hours. When the national average is 24 hours. So I was like, okay, cool. I like this. And then I went to a home birth, and the midwife missed her first birth. I take full responsibility. Neither one of us made it. But this baby came out so fast. And everything was good. And the midwife cornered me at that birth afterwards and was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" She goes, what are you doing? Your clients are birthing way faster than other doulas in the DFW area. What are you doing? And I said, I train them for birth. She goes, you need to teach that. So that's actually how Train for Birth came about 8 years ago. And now I've been teaching it. I did in person for years. And then the demand went up. And now I actually have a virtual online course too. But I'm teaching Train for Birth is natural birth knowledge, like physiological birth process. What is it? And then it is physical and mental training preparation to have a natural birth. Meaning, yeah, you're going to do exercises, and those exercises are going to help build your confidence. And it is a training for couples because expecting moms need to get their bodies ready. And then expecting partners, they need to learn like what to do with you. All right. Because they don't, men have a tendency to fix it, and you can't fix birth, but you can definitely get tools to be an active participant in the birthing experience. It gives them something to do. It gives them more confidence. And then they're also more willing to protect and stand up for what they want when there's intervention after intervention thrown at them and trying to veer them off into a plan that they don't want, or a birth that they don't want. So it gives both couples power to work together as this unstoppable team, which is giving results of 96% vaginal birth rates, and it's dropping the cesarean rate by 88%.
That is very impressive. That's amazing. I mean, like we were talking a little bit before we hit record. With my first birth, it was 23 hours, so I fell right around that average for a first-time mom. And, I was doing a lot of things very right. I had a home birth. I was laboring in the water. I was doing all sorts of different position changes, but I was like nervous about it. I was in my head a lot. I was worried that he was a little bit off to the side, and I had a cervical lip and all these things. And I was like, okay. And I was trusting that my midwife and her assistant, who was also a doula, were going to help me. And it was good. Like overall, the experience was a very positive experience. But then I did dive into the learning and the research and the practice a lot more with the second pregnancy, and it was night and day. Like my contractions were exciting. They were awesome. I wasn't scared of them. I tell people, like, if I can make one suggestion, the difference between my first and my second labor was with my first, I'd go, shoot, another contraction. Here we go. Let's get through this, And with my second, from the very first contraction, I was like, yes, let's go. Let's do this. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to get to see my baby. And I'm telling you, like, it sounds exaggerated, but I am telling you, every single contraction felt productive. Like, I felt my baby and my body doing the things that they needed to do to birth this baby. And it was so different. It was super intense. It was not a walk in the park because of the intensity. But then my baby, like you said, flew out of me. Like, I literally, at one point, I was like, you stay in there, because I was determined to have him in the water, and my pool wasn't filling up fast enough because I was completely delusional about how far along I was in labor. And I kept like side-eyeing the pool. I'm like, is it full yet? Is it full yet? Is it full yet? And I was like trying to keep him in. And he was like, no, Ma, I'm coming out. And I looked up at my husband at one point. I was like, hey, Nick, is there somebody behind me that can catch this baby? Because it's happening. And he looks up. He's like, you're good to go. And literally, like, I didn't push. He just like, bloop, out he came. Water broke. In that same contraction, the body came out. And suddenly there was this baby. And there's a picture of me going, like, I was like completely in shock. I had no idea. But in retrospect, I look, and I don't know if I did all the right exercises or not. It'd be cool to have somebody like you analyze what I did and didn't do, but I did the things that I needed to get my body and my mind completely ready so that it wasn't scary. It wasn't, I wouldn't call it easy, because that would be wrong. But it was effective, and it was without barriers, so anyway, so I definitely, there is something to be said for preparation is a huge component.
I totally agree. Like with your first birth, asynolytic, that basically means the head's tilted and leading to the side of the head versus the crown of the head, like babies are supposed to. So when that happens, that tells me immediately that your pelvis is out of balance. So you have tight muscles on one side, weak muscles on the other. It could be front to back, it could be side to side, it can be diagonal in the pelvis, and the baby has trouble navigating that. Whereas the second baby, the baby literally dropped out with the fetal ejection reflex. That is a balanced pelvis. So that's what Train for Birth does, is it gets the pelvis balanced. With our societal habits that we have, our modern day societal habits, we sit way too much. We sit in cars, trains, planes, we sit at desk jobs 8 hours a day after day. Some people have driving, maybe you're drive around all the time for your work. We sit on toilets. Toilets are terrible. Like we sit, and our bodies are supposed to be erect. So there's a major muscle in the body that goes from the top of the body down to the bottom called the psoas. It's PSOAS. And when we sit too much, it shortens it and tightens it up. So when it comes time to have a baby, the pelvis doesn't open properly. We have a higher chance of having a breech baby, which is a baby trying to come through the pelvis butt first versus head first. There's not enough movement in our bodies, so our pelvises also stay really closed. And even though it is a beautifully well-designed, godly phenomenon of childbirth, your body knows what to do, but if those muscles around the pelvis are too tight and short, your body can flood with the relaxin hormone to get the joints ready, but the pelvis actually can't expand because the muscle tissues and the connective tissues around are so tight, the baby can't get out. And that is what sedentary jobs, sitting a lot, these things, electronics, our phones, our iPads, is causing us to literally be lazy. And so that's what's causing a higher breech baby presentation, more labors for 24 plus hours, and higher cesarean rates, because I'm just going to call a spade. We're lazy.
Yeah,
Not everyone's like that, but it's causing problems with childbirth, and not to mention the mental aspect. Birth is only physically that 20%. It's 80% mental. And here we are with TV shows and some providers and social media and telling us all the reasons why we can't birth our babies without drugs, or we can't birth our babies because, oh, I'm sorry, your pelvis is too small, or you know what, you can't birth your baby because your baby's too big. And that weighs heavily on women's conscience, and then it instills fear, and then they have insecurity, and then they have doubts, and then when it comes time for the birthing game day, it all rears its ugly head mentally, and now they can't get through birth because they're defeated mentally and they haven't even had their first contraction yet. So the repetition of the exercises gets that mental toughness in there, and then it builds your mental, and you did whatever you needed to do for that second birth, from you going, oh my gosh, here it comes, this, to like dragging yourself to the other side of the contraction, to like, let's go, let's get this, I'm going to run this contraction, and when it goes away, we're going to blow it away, and we're going to rest, and we're going to wait for the next one, and I'm going to run that one just as happily.
Yes.
That's where we need to be mentally. You did amazing. You did the right actions to create that second birth, and anybody can do that and train physically and mentally.
That's right. I completely agree. I had one doula client, who was like, well, I believe that the body was designed in a way to birth, and I'm just going to trust in my body. I'm going to trust in God to birth this baby. And I said, you're not wrong. Okay. Like, fundamentally, you are correct. However, I want to make sure that you know how not to get in the way of that. So like all the things you're talking about, the muscular, the physical things that could get in the way, the sedentary habits, and then the mental also, like, if you have fear, or if you have stress, or if you have anxiety, those things actually get in the way of oxytocin production. Oxytocin is a super important hormone that actually makes labor get going and keeps it going. And so, if you haven't done your due diligence and done your preparation so that you're not getting in the way of this perfect system, you might run into trouble because you don't know, if you don't know how to troubleshoot something and something goes wrong, it's not so good, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, if you could give, I don't know, your top piece or your top couple of pieces of advice for a mom who is pregnant and she wants to have confidence and she wants to know, other than, of course, she should take your course, which we're going to definitely put a link to in the description because I'd like to get people to that. But what would you say to her that she could apply right now? What could she do right now different to get herself on the path of preparation for a good, happy physiological birth?
If she's not already moving, she needs to get her body moving. I think one thing that's super key, and people usually like their chins hit the ground when I say this, but this is kind of important, is you should bare minimum be walking 3 to 5 miles a day or 10 to 15,000 steps, however you want to measure it. Bare minimum, you have to get it in. Like, because walking, we're erect and it lengthens that very important muscle of the body called the psoas, like I mentioned earlier, and it helps get the body more prepared. If you have a desk job and you have a chair and you sit in a chair all day long, you need to replace that chair with a birth ball and get your hips moving. We need to be moving our bodies every 45 minutes of our wake hours. Our little, electronic devices that we have, they have timers on them, and you can set a timer for it to go off every 45 minutes, and you get up and maybe you pop a couple squats or a couple lunges, or maybe you get up and go to the bathroom, or you go get you some water, or walk around the hall or something, go up and down stairs and then come back and sit down. It doesn't have to take hours. It could just take maybe 5-minute break, and then you sit back down and hammer it out, and then 45 minutes later you get up and do something a little different. We've got to work movement into our bodies way more, because that is what's causing an issue right now, just from the modern day society and what overall generally everyone is doing. If you are already continuing to work, you're already active and you work out a lot, keep going, don't stop. It's the worst thing you can do. If you're already an athlete and you're used to moving your body, whatever that athleticism is, you have to keep it going, because if you just stop in your tracks, you're throwing your body into shock, because your body isn't getting what it needs and what it knows for however many years you've been doing that, right? The other thing is hydration. We do not drink enough fluids. We're too into all the things, this drink and that drink and, all the fancy stuff. We got to get back to basics. Water, half your body weight in ounces every single day of fluids, and electrolytes. Most Americans are very deficient in magnesium and vitamin D, like severely low, because we don't go outside very much, vitamin D, and magnesium is just very low. So electrolytes is super important. Our body is not made of just water. It also has salt and glucose in it. So you have to put those minerals back into your body, which is super important. I think a lot of problems with pregnancy and leading up to birth is just simply because women are dehydrated. And it takes a lot more fluids and blood than you think to sustain a pregnancy and be comfortable. So those would be like things I can think off the top of my head that would be like everyone needs to do.
Yeah, and that's I won't say it's easy to get in 10,000 steps a day, but it is at least doable. You don't need a gym membership or crazy equipment or anything like that. Like you can actually do that.
Yeah, I would say it's easy, because if you make it priority and you put it on your calendar, it's all about priority and what you're going to make priority in your life, right? You make going to work a priority. You're going to show up on time. You're going to work your day. You're going to go home. Yeah. If you're going to make a priority to sit down and read a book every single, 1 hour every single day, and you make it a priority, you're going to get it done. So it's about making priorities. Like, you have to put moving your body on your calendar and work your way around it, because you are not pregnant very long. 9 months goes real fast. And a lot of us don't even know we're pregnant for 9 months, because we don't find out till almost the end of the first trimester. And now you only have 6 months left. You just lost 3 months. Like, it goes super fast, and you're living life. You may be taking care of a spouse. You may be taking care of multiple kids. You may have multiple jobs. Like, you have all these other things going on in life. So you have to make it priority. And when you make it priority and you do it repetitiously, day after day, week after week, then it becomes normal and it's easy.
Yeah, that's a totally valid point. I actually used to joke that my first kid, he was 2 when I had my second kid. I used to joke that he was my birth trainer, because he is a very, very active little man. And he had me running. We had to go on walks. We had to play tag. We had our house at the time had this like circle of rooms that we could run around. he would literally have me doing laps with him just for, I mean, minutes on end, and he would go for hours if I allowed it. And I was just super duper active, and it was great. I mean, at the time I was like, I'm pregnant, I'm tired, whatever. But he kept me moving, and so I do give him, I don't know about all the credit, but I give him much credit for the ease of my second labor.
Nice. Yeah. And second babies have a tendency to come a little faster, but it definitely sounds with the two stories you shared, you were much more physically prepared and more balanced in your body to have a baby, and not to mention your mental toughness was like skyrocketed the second time, which is amazing.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What would you recommend as far as advice to get your head in the game?
Well, being an athlete, we do hard things and we do them over and over and over again. And we get used to being comfortable being uncomfortable. Like, you have to be willing to be uncomfortable for a certain amount of time, because honestly, you don't know how long that contraction is going to last. And honestly, you don't know how long your labor is going to last. So the first part is confront. You have to get your confront up on the fact that you're going to be uncomfortable, but you really need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. I mean, that's literally what athletes do. Like, well, I do competitions now with like high rocks and decas, and I'm like miserable doing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I decide to do this? And then as soon as it's over, I'm on the ground, laying down, I can barely breathe, and then all of a sudden this endorphins, this rush just overtakes my body, and I'm like, let's do it again. It's like, what am I thinking? And then the
Childbirth.
torture I put my body through every single day training, right? It's like you're chasing the high. So with having a baby, you're chasing the high. You have this amazing oxytocin, endorphin filled like high after you have a baby. So you have to put the work in. And mental training is, you just have to get good at being uncomfortable. So in my training program, I train you with intensity to be uncomfortable until you can get comfortable with it. And we work on breathing, we work on focus. Like, what are you going to focus on? If you're like, I don't like this. Oh, I'm not too sure about this. Oh my gosh, when am my baby going to be here? How many more hours is this going to take? Like, you're dwindling spiral real quick mentally. You're not going to make it, right? But if
Or
you
I
walk
can't
in,
do this. I'm not
yeah,
strong enough. Like,
yeah, the
well, okay.
negative thoughts that go in your head, or maybe you've been hounded by other negative people in your space, or the negative birth stories you've heard, that all weighs on you. But when you come in and you're like, you know, I call it your birth zone. You put your blinders on, you tune out the outside world, and you focus. All right, here it comes. I feel the twinge. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to move to my own rhythm of my labor, and I'm going to breathe. And when it comes over, I'm going to blow it away. I never have to have that contraction again. I'm going to rest. I'm going to feel like a wet noodle, or I'm going to melt like butter, and just let everything hang. And then I'm going to wait until my body decides to do another one. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. And you take each contraction one at a time. But you train that in the drills, so you're breathing, you're focusing, and then you're moving. And then I have one kind of drill that like ups the ante, and it's uncomfortable. So I train wall sits in my Train for Birth workshop, because they're terrible. No one likes to do wall sits. They're about as bad as planks, right? But you can breathe and you can focus and you can train with intensity, because your quads will start, the front part of your leg will start to burn. And
Mhm.
then your legs are going to start to shake over time. And you have to be able to hold the wall sit and not slide down the wall and give up mentally first, because, oh my gosh, this hurts. Oh my gosh, my legs are shaking. I don't know about this. I don't know if I can do this, right? So I teach them to not compensate. Like, only thing I want to burn are your quads. Don't grip your hands, don't raise your shoulders, don't squeeze your butt cheeks together. And I want you to breathe and I want you to focus. Don't move. And then over time, repetitious, they get better and they get better. And then before you know it, they just like, boom, they're there. They're so focused. If you even tried to talk to them, they wouldn't break their focus. right? This is the type of focus we need to be going into when we're in the throes of labor, where we're tuning everything outside. We are connecting to our primal instincts to birth. We are no longer using the analytical part of our brain. We are using the primal part of our brain. And you have to get primal. But if you don't practice that, you're not going to get there because you didn't practice it. So I'm huge on giving you what physiological birth is. So that's the theory. And then I'm going to give you the practical side, which you're going to be like, here, you actually need to practice it now. You have to drill it, and you need to do it over and over and over again. And the moms who come out the other end after their birthing experience, they're like, Krisha, I trained religiously. I trained every day, just like you said. Every day? Every day. Yes. You train every day. And they get in there, they step up to the starting line with their birthing game day with confidence. They get in there and they run those contractions. They own those contractions. And then, whoop, out comes a baby 8 hours or so later, and they're like, I can't believe I just did that. Oh my gosh, what just happened? But one, they're physically prepped. Two, they're mentally prepped, and they are tuning into their birthing instincts, and they shut out the rest of the world. That's how you have a baby quick.
That's incredible. I mean, that's ideal in every birth scenario, but I feel like especially if you're going to go into a hospital, because the amount of distractions in a hospital is just absurd. Like I was at a hospital birth recently, and over the PA, the public announcement system, in the room where this woman is trying to be in labor, will Nurse Ann come to the front desk? And I'm like, Nurse Ann isn't here. Why are we thinking about Nurse Ann right now? This is ridiculous. There's the beeping, and everybody's, there's like a parade of nurses, and the anesthesiologist walks in to check on you, and the new doctor, and then there's just shift change, and then there's a whole new parade of people, and then somebody comes to clean your room halfway through and take out the trash, and you're like, how is anybody supposed to focus? But if you, like you say, like if you practice that, if you train yourself, you can. And of course, like I would say, I'm partial, but you should hire a doula that can also protect your birth space and keep the minimum amount of distractions that have to be there. I would say be intentional about who you have at your birth. But in a hospital, I feel like the necessity of practicing not breaking your concentration is incredible.
Yeah, it's almost like the system is like, it's doomed for failure for childbirth. It's like you walk in and there's so many distractions. It is really hard to stay in your zone when you're constantly being pulled off with questions or beeping noises or people coming in and out of your room, or codes being called over the intercom, or all the things. It's hard to lose yourself in the field of labor, and you have to lose yourself in the field of labor. I had a client, a mom who trained for birth over, it was last month, but she messaged me, and she'd gone into her prenatal at 39 weeks, and she had a little tiny bit elevated blood pressure, like little tiny bit. Not, it's like right on the cusp. Well, you know what? You got to go in. We're scheduling right now. You need an induction. First of all, with one high blood pressure reading, that does not equal go to the hospital and have an induction. What happened? Like, were you upset? Did you ever fight with your partner, your mother-in-law, your mom? Like, was the temperature not good? Were you dehydrated? Did you have an altercation with the receptionist or the nurse that walked in? Was it the same doctor you saw last time? Did she say something to you that, like all these different things could have caused a blood pressure to go whoop and then right back down. Not to mention, our systems of our body are very flexible and they fluctuate a lot. So, it happens. So she called me freaking out, literally. And I was like, it's okay. I was like, we have options. You can go in and be monitored if you want. You can decline and then just monitor yourself 6 or 8 hours later. Just check your blood pressure again. Because if the rule of thumb is if you've had 2 high blood pressure readers 6 hours apart, then you should do something about it. Go get observed, right? She didn't have that. She checked it at home. It was fine. So ultimately, she made the decision to go in and be monitored. Fine. Perfect. Sent her home. And then she got up the next day, and then later the following night, she was like, Krisha, she texted me a contraction pattern. It was literally a contraction pattern. And she goes, I'm not in a contraction pattern. Oh, yeah, you are, honey. But I didn't say that. I just let her believe what she wanted to believe. And she goes, what do I do? It was 9:30 at night. I go to bed. It was early labor contraction pattern. It was fine. Stay hydrated, go to bed. Okay, yes, ma'am, I'll do that. She asked me another question, and I answered it, and I'm like, go to bed. She went to bed. So but the next morning, actually later in the afternoon, it's probably lunchtime, she texts me. She goes, I just want you to let you know, I had my baby overnight. I walked in, I was 10 centimeters and had a baby 40 minutes later.
It's amazing. I love those
And I'm
stories.
like, it's like, she just needed a little guidance to like know that it's okay after being fear-mongered into, oh my gosh, you have to go do blah 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 blah, right? Well, one, she was 39 weeks, and that's a medical induction, right? Check. You know, it's how they want to deliver your babies. And I always ask moms when they come at me with stuff like this or things related to this topic, I'm like, do you want to birth your baby how they want to birth your baby, or do you want to birth your baby how you want to birth your baby? What are we picking here? Like, what do you want to do about this? So you can always ask for advice, and I encourage you to have healthy conversations with your provider, but then, you know, use that BRAIN acronym: benefits, risks, alternatives, intuition, and nothing. But we don't use the N enough. We don't do nothing. We always have to do something. And I'm like, come on, people. Like, if you want your birth, you need to train for birth. You need you and your partner, because you both got to have skills and stand up for each other. And you need to know when something is medically necessary, truly medically necessary, versus when it's not. Because right now, everything is being labeled high risk. Come on now. Really? Really? I mean, our cesarean rate is 33% in the US. So much that it's the number one routine surgery in the US. That's terrible. That is terrible. Do we have that many women that are high risk? Oh, absolutely not. I'll be nice and say probably 10% of the population is truly high risk and needs higher level of care. That's probably, I think I'm being nice.
That is charitable.
90% of women are low risk, meaning they can birth their baby at home and there's nothing wrong with mom and nothing wrong with baby. So getting the word out and getting education up and bringing up awareness and changing what is being instilled into us, whew, that's a whole new level.
It's fighting an uphill battle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, I guess, battling a system that makes billions of dollars. And there's like a little old me that does not make billions of dollars, but I'm like really, really trying to like bring up awareness, because we get enough of the population and the masses of expecting parents, something will finally change. But it's getting the knowledge and changing the way we think about things, because literally, you know how many questions I get asked about what we see in Hollywood movies and TVs, if that's normal? And I'm like, that's not normal. Like, that's theatrics. It's like, that's entertainment. But that's what people see, so they think that's what childbirth is.
Yeah. I have behind me, I keep a copy of the Business of Being Born documentary. Like, if you want to understand the medical system and their take on birth, it is very lucrative. It is a very, very lucrative subject for the medical industry. People aren't going to stop getting pregnant and having babies. This is how our society, our civilization, our race continues. And so if you were a business-minded individual and you're like, hey, what can I guarantee to always make money from? That's a great option, because it ain't going to stop, right? And so the 33% cesarean rate, C-sections, insurance pays a whole lot of money for those. Every epidural, that's a lot of dollars. Every shot of every drip of Pitocin, that's dollars in the pockets, you know? And, you know, not to get all conspiracy minded, but it's just a fact. Like, the medical industry isn't having your baby. They're having services rendered for which they are getting paid. And so my take on it is, as the mother, you have to take responsibility for your own birth fully, 100%. That's not to say you don't hire a midwife or go to an OB or get a medical professional to help you. But at the end of the day, you call the shots, you make the decisions, and it's your birth, not anybody else's. I was like, even if you're being told, okay, you have to have a C-section or, worst case scenario is going to happen. Even in that moment, you are the one that's going to call the shots. Nobody's going to, you know, cuff you and chain you and drag you into an OR. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're the one that signs on the dotted line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like there's all this talk these days about birth trauma and whatever, and it's a real thing. I'm not saying it's, I roll my eyes not because I am downplaying the fact that birth trauma exists. It's a real thing and it's not okay. But I think that with some very extreme exceptions, for the most part, I would say that the responsibility of that is on the mother getting over the societal expectations. And like you said, like Hollywood makes birth look very different. And it's the mom's responsibility. Like, you have to take full 100% full stop responsibility for your own birth. You can't give that up to the medical professionals, you know, like, it's not their baby, it's not their birth. They can give you data, and some of them are going to be jerks, and they're going to give it to you in a very scary way, and they're going to threaten you, and they will do things in a very not okay way. But even if that's the case, you still have to hold the line. You have to say, no, this is my birth, I'm not doing that, I'm going to find a new provider. It's never too late to switch. I switched at 8 months. I thought I was a crazy person, and it worked out absolutely phenomenally for me. So if it's not working and the people are, you know, mistreating you or leading you down a path that you think is going to end up in a birth trauma, walk away.
100% agree. Like, you can't sit on your hands and not get paid. It's crazy how they charge for everything, but when you sit on your hands and do nothing, you can't get paid for that. So that's not something they're going to want to do. And if you're calling the shots, you're the captain of the team. So you create this team around you to have your baby. You pick and choose who you want, your place, your knowledge, all the things, right? It's kind of like you go get your hair cut. You're not going to be like, just do what you want, I don't care, right? No, you're going to come in with some sort of picture or idea of how you want your hair cut, and you're expecting that person to do what you want. It's the same thing. You walk in and you're like, this is the birth I want. How are you going to help me get that? Right? And you get those people on your team, and you're calling the shots. And if something should change and you need to change course for a certain reason, then you get your options and you pick where you want to do next. That's how you have positive birth experiences. When you're you're forced into things, that's traumatic. So you have full control, full responsibility on calling all the shots, however you seem is fit for you and to have your baby. Hiring your healthcare provider can make or break your experience. The location you choose can make or break your experience. Whether you get educated or not is going to make or break your experience. Whether you hire a doula and that doula you choose or not choose is going to make or break your experience. Your partner, whether your partner is trained or educated or not, is going to make or break your experience. The decisions that you make because you're educated and you feel this is best for your baby, and you implement that and you don't let anyone change your mind, you're going to have a positive birth experience, period, because you created it. And then you did what it takes behind that, whether it's the knowledge, the practicing, whatever you needed to do and create that. That's going to give you a positive birth experience that you're going to be so proud of yourself. You're going to grow this whole new relationship with yourself every time you have a child. And then guess what? You're going to share and tell a gazillion times for the rest of your life to all the other moms who are pregnant is a positive birth experience because you created it. You're going to be one of the few women that have a positive experience to tell everyone and share everyone and lift and empower some other expecting mom to do the same thing versus trauma. Right now, it is like spreads like wildfire, right? It's so contagious. But you know what? So is positivity. You can smile at someone and they're going to smile back. You can give someone a 10-second hug, they're going to feel good after that 10-second hug. Like, we just need to do more of it. But we're so inundated with negativity in our society. It's hard to find that positivity, but it's out there. And we can create
so it. True. It's so true. And to your point, like, none of what you mentioned, the things that make or break, whether it's a good positive birth story or a birth trauma disaster story, the outcome the way you give birth didn't fall anywhere on that list. I have heard stories like, I had Chia Mosley on my podcast some time ago. She shared her story ended up in a C-section. And it was the first time, like, I had always been deathly scared of C-sections. That was my one fear going into birth. I'm like, tearing, I don't care. Big babies, I don't care. Long labors, I can deal. C-section is where I draw the line. Like, couldn't mentally confront that whatsoever. But then I had her on my podcast, and she shares her story. And she was, through to the very end, even going through an unplanned C-section, calling the shots, totally in control. She knew what she was doing. She told people what she wanted. She made sure she got what she wanted. Her husband was like 1000% on board, helping her, backing her up. And she shared the story of birthing her baby through a C-section. She had me crying. Like, she had me crying on this podcast. It was so beautiful. It was so moving and magical, and it didn't, like, the level of magic of her birth was the same as the level of magic of my own. And to me, that was unbelievable, because how is it possible that a C-section story could be just as magical as a home birth? And yet that episode had a profound impact on me, where now I am convinced the way you birth your baby doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, of course it does, but as far as your feeling and your level of positivity or negativity with regards to your birth story, the venue has less to do with it. Your sense of control, your sense of, I was the one responsible for this outcome, and I made it happen the way I wanted. The outcome is whatever it's going to be. I mean, no two births are the same. Everybody's going to have their baby a different way. But at the end of the day, if you called the shots, if you knew what you were doing and you knew what you were getting into and you got it done the way you wanted to get it done, even if you changed your mind last minute, but you changed your mind, not somebody else, then you had a positive birth, and it can be beautiful and it can be magical. And there's like nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be worried about, so long as you stay in the driver's seat.
Exactly. And that's what I train women to do, expecting moms. I'm like, you're the captain and your partner's the co-captain, right? It's like you can have two captains to a team. You have the main captain and you have someone who helps you. Y'all are the drive to this. You have to be educated. You have to know what you want. You have to know what to say, when to say it, how to say it. No matter what comes at you, you have to be prepared. And the only way you can do that is by knowledge, and then drilling that knowledge over and over and over again. So then you become cause over it. Like you're the one in control, and then things just go beautifully. And then you keep controlling those things until you meet your baby on the other side, and then you still have to control more because now you're a parent. So it's just, you're right. It doesn't matter where you birth or who you birth with. It can be a beautiful experience and a positive experience no matter what, because you're the one that created it.
Yeah, that's so cool. And it's true. Like, I know that the moment that I became a mother, the very first moment, this baby comes out of me, gets put on my belly. He does the little belly crawl up to my boob. And I was like, I had some tearing. I was exhausted. I'd been up for some ungodly amount of hours. It was ridiculous. And I was like, it was, first of all, it was, the word empowering is so overused these days, but it was empowering. I was powerful. Like, I gave myself power. You know what I mean? And then the other thing that happened was I used what I had learned from labor, which was a lot. Probably should have learned it before labor, but I learned it in the middle of labor, which is, better late than never. But I learned courage. I learned strength. I learned endurance. I learned so many things, so many skills that I had within me that I just needed to sort of like, remember, you can do this. Mm-hmm. And that has benefited me so much as a mother, because yes, labor is over, but man, parenthood is a whole new ballgame. And you need all those things. You need endurance, because your kids they're gonna test that. You need patience, and that is something that you can learn. It helps tremendously through birth and labor. Strength, persistence, calmness. I use my breathing techniques. When my kids are getting to me, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do my birth breathing, because like I just need to like whoozah, like I need to chill. If I'm gonna control these little crazy chaos monsters, I gotta like get myself chill, and I can relax all my muscles and get myself back into like, okay, I'm like, all right, good. Let's tackle this for real. Let's do this, So I think that you're training for birth, but in the process of training for birth, you kind of train for life. Like you get skills that are very applicable to the rest of your life, especially as a parent.
Exactly. You're growing a new relationship with yourself. And you're teaching that to yourself with your discipline and your commitment for preparing for, let's just be real, one of the hardest days of your life. It's called labor for a reason. You will work really, really hard to meet your baby. And labor is 100% tolerable. Otherwise, our species would die off. Why would we be doing this, right? So it's the way we are supposed to be having babies. And you have full control of your birthing experience, whether you believe it or not. You don't necessarily have control over when your uterus is going to contract and for how long it's going to contract and how intense it's going to contract. It's an involuntary muscle, but it knows its job very well and does its job very well. But it's tolerable, and you can do the things to physically get your body ready so it makes it easier and smoother and you have confidence. But you can also do the mental work around it, which is where we need, I think, the most work as a society, because we're going to give up mentally way faster than we will physically. Let's just be clear. Yeah, and if we can get that mental toughness really drilled in and obtained before you step up to the starting line of your birthing game day, your birth will be easier, it will be smoother, and you're going to come out just winning. You're just going to be resilient, like you feel like you're untouchable, like, oh my gosh, that was the most amazing thing again. Can we do it again?
I mean,
That's the first thing I asked my husband. I haven't even finished my first baby, and I looked up at him, I go, can we have another one? He's like, can we finish this one first?
People say I'm crazy. So literally, 23-hour labor, blah, blah, blah. You all heard the story already. I'm like sitting there, my husband is sitting behind me. I'm leaning on his legs like this. I'm on the floor. The baby's on me. I'm like over the moon. I've never felt so exuberant before in my life. Like I just made this whole little human, and now he's here and I am alive, and ah. And I looked up at him, the poor guy, and I was like, I could totally do this again. And he looks at me like tired because he's been up with me. He's like, I don't know if I can. And then, of course, he had his bowl of cereal and his night of sleep, and he was like, yeah, okay, we can do that again.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. And then, I work a lot with first-time parents. I absolutely love it because they're like little sponges. Like they want to know about it all, and they're navigating this journey literally blindly because they never experienced it before. And I love holding their hand and coaching them along and watching them become parents for the very first time. I get to watch a couple become a family in an instant. And it is like, it gives myself chills every time I think about it. But it is the coolest thing to see ever. It's like, oh, that's why I like working with first timers.
It's incredible.
A lot of people are like, I don't want to work with first timers. They take too long. And I'm like, not my first climbers. But it's gotten to the point now. I've been doing train for birth for 8 years now, and I've got to the point where doulas and midwives are seeing the difference when people actually train for birth, and they're like, in order for us to be a team, you have to take this workshop. Yeah, it's like,
it's amazing.
It's really cool, and I'm super excited because I'm like, this is how birth should be. Babies should be flying out of vaginas. We shouldn't be taking day 2, 3, 4 days to have babies. Like, we can get the body back to what it used to be, thousands of years ago when we didn't have all these like modern day things going on. And then the babies come out.
It's amazing. It's so funny that you say that because like I sometimes joke I was going to have a traditional hospital birth, and I always put that in quotes because how is that traditional? For the entire existence of our species, we've been having home births, okay? Or river births, or garden births, or wherever the heck we were having births. And then suddenly it became traditional to go to the hospital. But that's actually a very recent development. That is
Oh
not
yes,
traditional at all.
since the 1920s, they've done a fine job of marketing their services.
Incredible, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
now it's
pretty
like so
wild.
scary and oh, you're so brave for having a home birth and how could you be risking your baby's life like that? And I'm like, what happened? How did we get here? I mean, I know how we got here, but like it's insane.
I know, I know. Well, you know, when you need medical attention, you should get it. Like 100% you
Yes.
should get it. But it is definitely being overused. A lot of things in the childbirth world are being abused. So be careful, or, really take the time to do your interviews and select the proper place, proper people around you, that's going to help you get the birth you want. That's super important.
I agree completely. All right, we have less than 10 minutes left. Super quick. In labor, what are your top, I don't know, let's say 5 tips for mama?
So my top 5 tips would be: 1, turn the lights out. Dilation starts with your eyeballs, not your cervix. You got to get it dark outside. 2, you need to hydrate, because more than likely you're not going to have enough fluid. So I recommend getting like 2 of these, one with water, the other one with electrolytes, and sit back and forth on those. 3rd is you need to eat. Your body needs power, it needs fuel, and if you don't eat and it's trying to run contractions and do this sporting event, you're gonna run out of fuel. Your labor's gonna stall, and you're gonna be off into some situation you didn't want to be in the first place. So you got to eat. 4th is you need to move when things are getting intense. You're not going to want to, but the more you move, the faster the baby's going to come out of your body, because movement opens up your hips. And the final tip I would say, and this is for first timers, is if you are not birthing at home, meaning you're going to go to the hospital or you're at a freestanding birth center, you need to labor at home at least an hour longer than what you think you need to do, because you're going to want to go in too early. And that's one of the things that first timers do a lot, is they get excited and they think, oh my gosh, this has got to be it. And they go in and they're going to get sent back home where it's not time enough. But stay at home and labor at least another hour if you are a first time mom.
Awesome. Yeah, makes a lot of sense to me. That's one of the things, is the beauties of home birth, is I didn't have to worry about that. My best friend shared her story, and she was like going into the hospital, and she went to the hospital and then they sent her back and then labor stalled.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went back to the hospital and they sent her back a second time. And she was like, I can't do this again. She's in tears. Like, talk about being out of the zone of labor. Like, it's not happening at that point. So finally she's like, I'm just not going to go to the hospital, because if I get turned down a third time, I'm just going to give up. Like, I don't know. Like, so yeah, that is something that, one of the downfalls of a hospital birth is being able to gauge that. So I think that's very solid advice.
Yeah, and number 5 would refer back to number 2, because a lot of the times why you go in too early is because your contractions are close together, they're stronger, but you've lacked number 2, which is having plenty of fluids. And so it makes things a lot more intense, and think you're in further along in labor than you actually are.
Yeah, I actually, for all of the study that I've done as far as birthing and everything goes, there was actually a recent video that you had, which was, I think, geared specifically toward the partners at the birth. And you were telling them to keep the mama hydrated with electrolytes, chicken broth, water, whatever, any kind of liquids. And I was like, yeah, okay, that I know. But then you made a comparison to a Charlie horse. And if you don't mind, if you remember what that story was, I think that is incredible advice, and the example is so real, because how many of us have woken up in the middle of the night with a Charlie horse and your leg is like this and there's nothing, it's completely unbearable. Anyway, I'll let you explain, if you will, because I thought that was particularly fascinating.
Yeah, so it's like, have you ever had experience with a Charlie horse? So that's a cramp in your calf muscle. You can be dead asleep and all of a sudden your calf locks up and you're like, oh my gosh, that is terrible. It's like the worst pain ever. Or maybe you've had it in your hamstrings or quads, or maybe between your shoulders or whatever. It's like, it's just like a cramp and it's just constant and it's like locked up. It's pretty painful. Now imagine that type of sensation in your uterus, which is the largest muscle of your body, at the time of giving birth, every 3 minutes doing that type of contraction. That's a dehydrated contraction. and it's going to make you think you're further along in labor. It's going to wear you out. It's wearing your baby out because your baby's also dehydrated behind that. And then you happen to go into the hospital, you consent to a cervical check, which are optional, by the way. You can decline. And you're 2 centimeters, and they're like, "Oh, you're dehydrated, honey." So they literally, get you one of these bag of fluids, and then you're like, your contraction spaced 10 minutes apart, and you're like, you're sleeping, right? So that's what a dehydrated contraction is. This is Mobius. He's like ready to go.
Hi, Mobius.
Joining us
What an
now.
absolute cutie pie. These are my favorite episodes where little critters like this make a guest appearance. Hi, buddy. Oh my goodness.
Yes. He
So
gets
cute.
he's like, okay, I've laid here long enough. It's my time. You're
It's so
encroaching on
cute.
my time. Because this is
Well
literally
then,
his time where we sit
tell
in
you
bed.
what, Mobius. I will let Krisha give us her closing thoughts. Tell us where we can find you, how people can sign up for the course. I will, you tell them. I'll put all the links in the description so people can easily find all of your stuff.
Awesome. I'm Krisha. I am Serenity Life Doula on social media. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all the things. I'm there somewhere. You can find me, Serenity Life Doula. And my Train for Birth workshop, I have an academy. So I have a Train for Birth academy. It's online at trainforbirth.com. I have the virtual Train for Birth workshop. I have in-person workshops here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, and have people drive in or fly in to come train with me. So people will take the time to come in and train. That's like how cool it is. It really gets work. And I also have other courses like Childbirth Essentials, helps do all the interventions, how to do your birth plan, how to pick your provider, your location, like I guide you step by step. I have postpartum courses. There's a lot of courses. You just have to go look at it, trainforbirth.com. And then I also do, free classes on my Serenity Life Doula page every single month. So there's plenty of education. There's some totally awesome reels and videos you need to go look at to just further your education. So that's kind of a little bit about that. And then my last advice is 100% believe in you. I know for a fact that you can birth your baby, but I can't birth this baby for you. You have to believe in yourself, and how you believe in yourself is you get the knowledge, you put the practice in, you put the work in, and you get in there and create your birthing experience, because I know you can do it. So train your body, train your mind, labor your baby across the finish line.
But thank you so much. This has been a wonderful, very packed episode as far as density of knowledge and valuable information. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming on today.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you reaching out and making this connection.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, etc. And I'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye.